it just doesn't always fit with our play.
Are you telling me we're going to get a Talon?
I don't know if we will get a Talon. It's very difficult to predict because the Unicorns, they're a very difficult team to try and prepare for. But so far, Ban's looking pretty standard.
Which isn't just in the game, too. It's for casters, right? Because we look at this team and go, okay, hey, we see some weaknesses. Unicorns of Love, whenever we talk to them, they see completely different weaknesses. They play such a unique style League of Legends. It's so hard to predict exactly what they're going to bring out. They may have constructed an entirely new meta since we've been in playoffs, since we've been in Paris.
Now, Tristana, Jarvan, Rakan, very big picks that have all been left available. I think both Jay and Hillsang will be more than happy to take this, but also you have the possibility of the Morgana plus Jarvan combo from the side of H2K. A lot of strong picks left available, but the Unicorns, they're going to lock in their AD carry.
Good to see, too. We've seen exactly what can happen when you put Samix on that hyper carry, when you let him get to the late game. Early in the season, it was the Twitch. Now it's the Tristana, but H2K responding with a late game hyper carry of their own. The Sivir coming in for nuclear.
Often does very well into the Tristana during the laning phase. Early levels may struggle a little bit depending on the support matchup, but the Spell Shield can mitigate a lot of the burst from the side of the Tristana. But you have to be wary of the low mobility. I feel like it's important for H2K to get themselves that Jarvan right now, because if Unicorns of Love pick it, then they're going to be able to lock down that Sivir and make Nuclear's life very difficult.
Yeah, Sivir not a fan of the walls. Those escapeless AD carries, and we've seen Jarvan just such a powerful blind pick. He's a good jungler. He's a solid top laner, can be so flexible. And I'm wondering where H2K are going to put him, because I think what we heard from the desk, the top lane is a very interesting matchup.
It really is. Cassio going to be the priority next for the Unicorns of Love. This is a little meta. Also fits into the style of Exile. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with it, but now I'd love to see something like a Syndra potentially coming out from the side of H2K. I think that if they want to try and play around their middle lane, Syndra plus Jarvan is a fantastic gank setup where you can really shut down Exile in the mid lane, and that has been a big opportunity or bright spot for H2K in the past.
Now I wonder what he's going to go to. Will he go for a safer pick? Will we finally see him play it? Bevin, you're playing with my heart. Thaddeus, you're right, but it's the least exciting answer it possibly could have been.
Super fun. I love Syndra plus Jarvan. Whether the Jarvan is top or jungle, you have a really good setup for just perma-ganking that middle lane. Deficio and I talked a lot about how Syndra here in Europe just seems to be so effective because of how easy it is to gain that mid lane control. And after yesterday's performance where H2K, they locked in that Syndra in the third game. Febiven had a great game. I think it's a big comfort pick for them. And I think that so far the draft from H2K looking very solid. But the Unicorns, they've invested early into their bottom lane. They can now start pinching out some of these support picks that H2K have left to the wayside.
And we talk about playmakers for Hylissang. Thresh, a great playmaking champion, a solid champion in the hands of Hylissang. Tristana, the late game scaling if this team wants as well. The only question mark for me is that Cassio in the mid lane. Is that mid lane match? Because this is not a pick we've really seen from Exile.
Well, we're now going to have that opportunity, Dracos. And Unicorns, instead of focusing on the support bans, they're actually trying to ban away some of the junglers. They're expecting that Jarvan to be up in the top lane. I think the reason why they're not banning away supports is if H2K were to pick something like a Tahm Kench, they're immediately giving away a lot of lane pressure. Even though it does well into the Thresh, it does make the laning phase a little bit harder. I'd love to see something like a Braum ban now from the Unicorns of Love to force H2K either onto a ranged support, one that becomes very easy to try and burst when you're playing with a Thresh, or force them onto something like a Tahm Kench or Rakan, with which Thresh can have a lot of lane pressure with.
H2K, though, they're focusing their bans on the top side of the map. No Rumble, no Shen available for the Unicorns of Love. Two very big picks for Vizicachi historically. Recent performances weren't quite as good, but you can never underestimate this man when you give him those comfort picks.
Very important to remember that Sejuani is still available for H2K to lock in. The Unicorns of Love, they do have the Thresh to start off fights, but aside from that, they're still lacking a lot of engage. And I'm expecting them to lock in something like the Renekton as an answer to the Jarvan, but then where are they going to find that next form of engage from with so many of the common junglers banned away?
Options abound for H2K. They will take the blind Renekton going up against the Unicorns of Love. A lot of confidence coming in there. Locks the Jarvan into the jungle as well for Jankos. That is a terrifying bruiser duo on the top side for H2K.
Yeah, H2K, they've got really strong laners in both top and mid right now, which Jankos will have the freedom to play around either side. You heard it on the analyst desk, and we were going to bring it up where we wanted to see a little bit more investment into Odo, because when you start him snowballing, this guy, you get to remember why he's considered such a talented top laner here in Europe. And Unicorns of Love, it wouldn't be the Unicorns if they didn't have their own bit of creativity.
And not quite as special as it used to be. Kane, we're seeing it a bit more often now in the recent
games.
There you go. Thank you. Maokai coming in as well. Yeah, it's not going to be exciting, but it is pretty safe in that top lane matchup.
I'm still a little worried about Unicorn's ability to force fights, though, because Maokai, while his ultimate, yes, it's very big, and you can see it coming in, it's definitely a way to try and make fights happen. It's also very obvious, and you can play around it, predict it, deal with it, especially against someone like a Sivir who has that spell shield, too. So I'm a little bit concerned of how Unicorns are going to find ways to force fights later on, and H2K round things out with the Braum that we were just talking about. So I think H2K, right now, they have really strong lanes, they have loads of ways to start fights, and they're scaling arguably not as strong as H2K in the very late game, but they're the ones with all the tools to start the fights in their favor. So I feel like this game is very much about H2K trying to dictate the pace in the early to mid game, whereas the Unicorns, they can look to be a little bit aggressive in the early game with the Kayn. But aside from that, they're going to have to rely on Skane. They're going to have to play passive and really wait till the classic Unicorns, 20 to 25 minutes, try and force a fight around Baron, where they can demonstrate their true team fighting prowess.
And a lot of that feels like coming out of the early game unscathed. Big question marks for that, especially with Ottawamne getting his hands on the Renekton. True terror on the top side of the map. You have to expect that Xerxes, he's going to have to pay some attention there, because if that Jarvan, if that Renekton are allowed to jump onto that tree, are allowed to jump onto Vizicsacsi, it is going to be a difficult game for the Unicorns of Love.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head, Dracos. It's going to be difficult for the Unicorns of Love throughout this early game. And I'm excited to see how well they can deal with the pressure, because they are a team that typically tends to play the early game from behind, and H2K love these early game leads.
It's been a clash of styles for so long between these two teams. And today we get to find out who will reign supreme, who will keep their hopes alive to set foot on the world stage, to go to China and Wuhan to represent Europe. So much riding for both of these teams. One last best of 5 between them. In 2017. Dramatic music is cued. Crowd has clapped. That means it's time for game 1, folks. We are getting ready. When the Unicorns fans are out in force, Vedius, it would not be an EU LCS game without them here. And while the crowd may be going wild, the game is at a calm start. No crazy level 1 invades, nobody taking any wild risks, and I think it's the right choice. Team's not sure what to expect from each other, but when you look at the early game, Vedius, junglers are going to be a big story. Jarvan, we've seen it before. Kayn still feels like a bit of a new one.
So this jungle matchup is really interesting, largely because Yangos, as we said in Champions Select, he has a bunch of winning lanes with which he can look to play around. Syndra, Renekton. Really easy gank setup and plenty of damage in that lane to either camp or at the very least get ahead in. Whereas for Xerxes playing this Kayn, chatting to him just as Kayn was released, he was all about, you need to be invading if you're playing Kayn. You have to be obnoxious. You want to steal away camps. You want to force the enemy jungler out. But the only way you're going to do that is if you have pressure. And based on the matchups that they picked, they're not going to have that kind of early game pressure. So I'm fascinated with how Xerxes will stick to this early invade style when he doesn't really have the laners to support it.
It's going to be difficult. We heard from Maxler as well. You play like Season 5 Nidalee. You find that lead and you keep pressing. Keep looking to get an advantage. Now they're looking to take away the Raptors. Big source of XP. Looking to interrupt. A weak early clear from Jarvan. Buying a lot of time, but this is a huge commitment of resources on the side of Unicorns of Love. They are not letting this look like a standard early game. They've got something special planned.
No, this is not a level 1 gank.
Moving forward on the Feathervin. Flay, flash.
Wow.
That looked a little odd.
But it definitely applied the slow. The Flay did in fact happen. I think that was just a bit of a spectator bug because Feathervin, he gets the flash. This is... Okay, so Dragos, we talked a little bit about early pressure. That's one way to get early pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked about Xerxes, he just wants to counter jungle. Hillsang, not a fan. He's not here to help counter jungling. Hillsang is here to kill people.
Wow. So, UOL, right off the gate, coming out with a bit of an innovative strategy. All 3 members, mid, jungle, and top, invade to not only get Xerxes a very quick level 2 from the Raptors, but then they steal away the red buff too. This is going to slow down the early game presence of Jankos, but already he's caught up. He recognized, go straight to his blue buff, do his walls, and just get back into the game as fast as he can as Xerxes now moves back into his own jungle.
Jankos taking a very aggressive path onto the top side, spending a lot of time just to make it over to this blue buff, just to hope not to get 3 buffed in this exchange. But Xerxes headed there as well. Goes for H2K. Febiven definitely has pressure in the mid lane. So it may just be the 1v1 in the jungle. Blast Cone not going to work.
No
Exile
flash,
committing.
no flash.
Wants to go forward. First blood dropping for Exile.
And that all comes from the fact that Febiven was forced to use his flash earlier. Exile just dives on top of him, level 3, and gets the solo kill. You have so much kill threat early on with the Casio. We wanted to see Exile step up, and this is a great way to start off.
Pause is coming out for Xerxes. We'll give you more information as we figure out the cause. But for now, I just want to talk about that because we talked about Syndra being so good in Europe because she has that gank setup, because she has that constant kill pressure. But the thing about Casio, you miss 1 or 2 of those skills, you miss that stun, she just gets to leap on top, well, leaps kind of, she gets to slither towards you slowly while pressing E every half a second, which is pretty terrifying and does in the end result in that first blood.
The big thing about it is usually you can't afford to hard commit early on with Casio because it drains a lot of mana. So if you fail it, you now have no mana left during the laning phase, and you can no longer wave clear, you keep getting pushed under your tower, it becomes an awkward time. The problem was, for Febiven, was that he already got chunked out early on because of the bit of the exchange of the roam from Hylissang. He lost his flash, and that just gave the freedom for Exile to just dive immediately in and get that first blood. And when you think about all these little things the Unicorns have done, the early red steal invade, the fact that the bottom lane didn't lose anything after Hylissang getting that flash in mid, first blood going over in favor of Exile, everything looking really, really good in game 1 for the Unicorns of Love.
Well, while we wait for the pause to be resolved, let's take a look at that first blood. Let's kind of check out exactly what happened here. We know the flash is already gone. We know Febiven is in a tight spot, but how exactly was Exile able to grab this kill?
So let's have a look here. So Febiven level 3, Exile level 2. He lands the initial poison there. He knows he can keep chasing. And the key thing is that he just keeps landing the poison. You can see the bonus movement speed is allowing him to keep up with Exile every time he lands that little poison, his Q. And even though he's level 2, he has more than enough damage. His mana pool is effectively full. And he's able to get the solo kill. So 400 gold in the pocket of Exile right now. He's going to be able to get a very early tier. Start stacking that as soon as possible. Means that Casio's going to reach that big damage threat much sooner than H2K would have liked.
All right, update on the issue. It looks like Xerxes' screen was frozen. League officials have reviewed the footage and deemed that it was not, did not affect the game. So we will be continuing here shortly. So small issue, but coming from the jungle, well, nothing was happening. Luckily, not from the mid lane where people are trying to kill each other. So no crazy situation here. Just going to get right back into gameplay. Has now resumed. We'll get it on your screen in just a moment. And Vedius, this is not the start I expected from Unicorns of Love whatsoever.
Nope.
A little BM from the observers, but hey, there's a corpse. That one's named Febiven. He's going to be in that deficit.
So now, what Exile needs to do is hard push in mid. I think it might be smart for Xerxes to come and help push him out, but he doesn't need to. He just wants to try and keep Jankos down, and then he wants to go back to base and buy that tier as quickly as possible. And that's only, we're only 3.5 minutes into the game, Dracos. We expected H2K to be the ones exerting that early pressure. They had a Syndra, they have a Renekton, they have a Jarvan, but Unicorns, they read this all very, very clearly, and they want to try and shut Jankos down, but Exile, he's in a bit of trouble now.
Febiven is here, does not have the flash. Jankos takes a lot of damage, but that is a level 2 Jarvan. Exile is already level 4, no mana. He is going to be forced back. But this is dire straits coming in for H2K early on. This is, they need an economic relief plan here, Vedius, because Jankos is far behind in gold and experience. Febiven is in the same boat, and Xerxes, he's free farming, man. Both these jungles belong to him. That's exactly what we wanted from the Kayn in the early game.
H2K, they're going to have to dig deep into that piggy bank if they're going to want to find ways back into the game, because everything is in Xerxes' control in terms of the jungle in this early game. And this was our question. How is he going to go for those invades? And he decided, well, if I start invading at level 1, I just never have to stop. And
just don't go alone, man.
Exactly.
Just bring a Maokai, bring a Casio, and now we may see some play on the bottom side. Hylissang going to try to leap out to safety. Good play backwards. Yanko's not going to push any further. Boomerang Blade does come in, but it's moving forward. Samic's looking for a little bit more. Not quite enough damage. Does give up the flash. All 4 summoners burnt on the side of Unicorns of Love, but no kills dropping for H2K or Jankos.
Well played there from Hylissang, using his flare at just the right time to prevent himself getting knocked up. A very early flash from Jay to guarantee his passive being applied onto Hylissang. Looked like that he was in some dire straits, but the Unicorns bottom lane, they still find ways to keep themselves alive, and they forced a flash out of Jankos once more. So this early game still heavily going in the favor of the Unicorns of Love. Jankos not really been able to find any sort of early game advantages. And again, the bottom lane is not where we were expecting him to go. The mid and top is where you typically expect this Jarvan to try and camp, but instead he goes to the bottom lane. And yes, he does get a lot of summoner spells. Now let's see if he tries for a return gank.
And Yanko's not always the biggest focus from opposing teams. Hard guy to shut down, but Unicorns of Love have been successful, and Jankos has just been getting better and better over the course of playoffs and the gauntlet. We'll see if the rinse and repeat is going to be the right strategy. The flag and drag played back under the tower. Che hooked up. A lot of damage drops. It's going to get the reset on the rocket jump. Samix can move forward, can push for more if he wants to. Kane is on the way, baby. Looking for that transformation nice and early, because that's the double. Dropping for Samix.
H2K tried once again to gank this Tristana Thresh lane. They have so much mobility available to them. As long as Hylissang plays on the back, you have the Lantern, you then have the rocket jump from Samix. H2K commit too hard, they get dragged underneath the tower, and remember, they burn all their summoner spells too. So the moment Xerxes arrives, they get the turnaround kills, and Unicorns extend their gold lead to 2,006.5 minutes into the game.
Oh, this is going to be bad. Drops the ward, makes sure to be safe. Che is on the way.
It's Kane, man.
Not worried about those walls, baby. Just walk out.
This is a beautiful demonstration of how to effectively play Kane, but let's have a look back at how this bottom lane all kicked off. Hylissang sitting back. He knows that he's going to get rooted up, so Samix jumps early, and at this point, H2K, they have to realize that they failed the gank, but instead they overcommit. Samix, there's no risk to him here on the back line, because he knows that all the CC is gone, and so Xerxes, he just jumps in, he gets the kill, there are no summoner spells left, and now this Tristana 2-0-0, very early on into the game.
And the picture we painted, Vedius, I'm going to have to hold that thought, though. Vizichachi is going to get engaged on. Ultimate up and available, not going to need it. But the picture we painted for this series, Vedius, was, hey, H2K, they want to get the early leads, they want to snowball Unicorns of Love, they want to lose as little as possible and come back with that team fighting prowess. But Unicorns of Love are winning the early game right now, confidently. Jankos is in a massive deficit. If catch-up experience was not a thing, he'd still be level 3 right now.
And you have to give a lot of the credit to Xerxes and Hylissang, because Xerxes moving with his mid and top to get that early invade. Hylissang burning the early flash, and look how Xerxes just does not stop. I was wondering how he uses this early pressure to get invades, and they're doing it perfectly.
And you forgot, Jankos, it's totally understandable. I know you thought that was your jungle. It's not. It's Xerxes' jungle. And it actually all belongs to the Kane at this point. And this is the scary part. Yes, catch-up XP is a thing. Yes, it's very easy to come back, but Xerxes is not letting this man have any camps. Luckily for him, he has a separate side of the jungle where there is not a Kane, and he knows that. So for at least a few seconds, he will be able to jungle safely. Bevin, though, maybe not the safest route for the jungle, but is hungry for a little bit of action. Samix just leaps out, uses that buster shot. Not going to be anything further, but I feel like H2K kind of grasping at straws here. Bottom lane will get some pressure down.
They want to try and punish Samix for being alone. They saw Hylissang roaming around with the jungler, and they thought that maybe they could take advantage, or at the very least get some deep vision down, but now we have another gank up top.
Moving forward, Kane's not going to commit. See the ultimate come out, happy with that exchange. Don't want to push any further. Vizichachi, though, very low on mana. They can pretty confidently turn that one around.
And we've had so much action already happening, 8.5 minutes into the game, that we haven't even taken a second to look at the top lane. Just look at the differences. This is not typically what you'd expect from a Maokai into Renekton. Renekton's usually that lane bully. He's the guy that gets the CS advantage, especially against a champion like a Maokai. But Chachi, he seems to be holding his own perfectly.
And this is the thing. You come in 3 weeks, we have not seen the Unicorns of Love. They show us something new here in the early game. Immense improvement from Vizichachi in the early game. And of course, the insane amount of pressure laid down by the team as a whole. Unicorns of Love have planned this out from the start of the game with that level 1 invade. They are clearly in control. Bevin, though, looking to change that, looking to remain aggressive, still taking a lot of Xerxes' time. Xerxes doing whatever he can to take away these jungle camps, to keep Jankos down.
Now, we imagine that he will be going for the Rust form. Be a little bit greedy and overconfident to go for the Shadow Assassin. But the surprising thing, what I love about Rast is how deceptively tanky he is, because you take a lot of damage, but he has so much lifesteal that halfway through a fight, he'll ulti one of the big tanks, he'll chunk them out, and then he'll come back into the middle of the fight, full on HP. And when you also go for something like an early GA, which I've seen a lot of Kane's doing recently, he becomes super obnoxious to kill.
And one of the most frustrating things, similar to Ezreal's ultimate, once he starts to channel on the W that knockup, he can actually interrupt it. He's going to heal, he's going to knock you up. Jarvan wants to flag and drag in, well, you're going to trade CC at that point, even if your CC connects. Very frustrating champion to play against, but we have to see what Xerxes' plan is. He may have something special. We might see a Shadow Assassin. I think you're right that it's the Ross. This man is invading so aggressively, and ultimately a lot's going to come down to that transformation bar with what he wants to go for.
Now the thing is, for the Unicorns of Love, they're in a really good spot, because remember, we talked about scaling definitely in the favor of the Unicorns for the most part. They have a Maokai in the late game, they have a Tristana and a Cassio, and Kane does surprisingly well, especially against tanks, but just being obnoxious, basically, soaking up a lot of the damage in the late game. The issue that they have is being able to force these fights. So for now, Unicorns, they're happy just playing the slower game. They're happy just scaling up, farming up, and the pressure is on H2K to try and force a fight. They're still pretty strong with the Syndra, with the Renekton. Once they get those first items, they're still in a good position to force fights. So it's not all over yet.
No, absolutely not. A very good early game coming in for Unicorn to Love, but we have to remember H2K did have a very dominant series against Splice. Was the 3-0, but even against Fnatic when it was a difficult series, they showed a lot. But versus Splice, we see here, major lead, major deficit. That, of course, means you're holding 51.5% of the gold if you are in a major lead, or 48.5% or less if you are in a major deficit. So understand H2K was in the lead for the majority of the series. It was impressive play coming in from them. Now we have to see. This game's going to have a lot different numbers. The gold lead definitely going to be consistently in the favor of Unicorns, but that could change right here. Exile is going to get knocked up and knocked back. Flash out, perfect timing on the Cataclysm. H2K want to get something. At least they got a flash.
So the Unicorns in that whole setup, oh, they're actually going to be Jankos.
For Jankos, Kane just going to go over the wall, move in, easy, not even going to need the Umbral Trespass. Quick kill pickup.
And H2K, they thought the Unicorns of Love had backed off. Exile used all of his summoners. Odoamne even TP'd in. But they go for the return gank. They knew they had full vision throughout the river. They saw Jankos out. And look at the level difference between those two junglers, Dracos.
2.7k gold lead. 67 CS in the jungle to 24 Vedius. 1-0-1. This man is going to have 12-minute Ross transformation super early in the game. Let's be clear, it's easy later in the game. You auto-attack someone once at 40 minutes, you get that transformation. Early on, you have to play so aggressive to get that. H2K wants some aggression of their own. The flash forward, knocking out Fevin, cleanses out. Vizichachi's hungry for the kill, but it might just be his life on the line, and it is going to be the first kill fired back for H2K.
So H2K finally gets something. Febiven, he makes his way up to the top lane. They know that with a Renekton and a Syndra, they have the ability to force, at the very least, maybe a kill. So they can start one of these two solo laners snowballing. But UOL, they're still in a really good position.
The thing I like we're seeing from H2K is they're giving that same attention to Odoamne we mentioned earlier. The Renekton was such a good pick for him against Fnatic. Could be key here against Unicorns of Love. It has not been great early on, but H2K are still looking to support it.
I mean, I gotta challenge that a little bit, Dracos, because all those early ganks from Jankos were invested bot rather than into the top lane. And it just makes you wonder, why wasn't Jankos focused on trying to snowball this Renekton? It is such an easy lane to set up dives for, to set up kills for, and it's just such an easy way to get back into the game, or at least get a bit of a hold while your 2v2 just holds their own bot. And instead, just poor decision-making from Jankos has allowed Unicorns to get to this point. Now they're utilizing the TP.
Forward play backwards, only going to connect on one. Xerxes is a little bit hungry for blood here, waiting on that knockup, holding that cooldown. Just going to be the tower in their sights. Unicorns love playing with a bit of patience. H2K will get a kill back on the Hylissang. Febiven now pressuring in the mid. Odoamne is going to do the same in the top, but if H2K can't get towers, it's not going to mean a whole lot.
But H2K, yes, they couldn't follow up with the TP, but they're actually in a really good position to answer with two towers, just as you were saying, Dracos, because well, they only got one kill down the bottom lane. They will get the first tower, but H2K even traded that kill back. So think of all the farm and experience that you will lose by investing so many resources down into that bottom lane. I think this was a fine trade for H2K, given the amount of resources UOL invested.
And interesting, Jankos may not be paying attention to the top side, Vedius, but a lot of attention for Febiven. The second time he's shown up to this lane, trying to get something back. The dual lane is coming up. catch the wave. Febiven is there. They may just be able to delete the Tristana before anything can happen, but he doesn't want to take the risk, doesn't know where the members of Unicorns of Love are.
And now I imagine H2K will swap their bottom lane up to the top side. They know that they can hold their own at the very least. Jankos is hanging around, but he is relatively low. You can also see Renekton sitting in the brush. I think it's smart from H2K to just back away. They need to get control back over the mid lane.
You want him to back away. He wants to get a kill. Not going to get the chance. Rocket jump takes him out to safety.
But now look at how many members you have on the top side if you're H2K, because you've sent Febiven up there to try and set up a gank. Hook lands.
Double stun. Hook's still going to connect. That's the knockup. Chain CC moving forward. Umbral Trespass is available. Hylissang not quite so safe, but I don't think he's going to get the chance. Febiven is in trouble and taken out. His Exile picks up that kill.
And this is why we were saying they should have backed away, because Odo, showing his face up top lane, along with the other members of H2K, UOL had full knowledge of where they could move in the map. They immediately move into the top side of H2K's jungle because they knew they had pressure mid. They find a pick onto Febiven, who had no summoner spells available, and now they're going to get themselves that mid-tier 1.
Such a dominant performance coming in for the Unicorns of Love right now, and so hard to be Jankos after all the aggressive counter jungling in the early game. Betty's is his worst deficit at 15 minutes, down 1.1k in the early game on an individual member. Now the hook's just landing left and right, though. Hylissang wants to keep the ball rolling. The chain CC coming in from the Thresh and the Ross. That's going to be the knockup moving forward. Umbral Trespass. Jankos tries to get out. He's not going anywhere.
The Unicorns of Love, they are just continuing to snowball this early game. It doesn't matter if their composition isn't ideal for forcing 5v5 fights. They're just always playing around objectives to get these kills, whether it be enemy jungle camps, bottom tier 1 towers, the Rift Herald.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
The objectives they're playing around are so small. I think H2K is not ready to fight for everything. They fought for wards, they fought for Rift Herald, they fought for vision on rafters. They fight for everything, and H2K is just not ready. The sheer amount of aggression that is coming out from the Unicorns of Love.
And I was a little bit worried seeing this Kayn pick, but Unicorns of Love, they identified the best way to utilize it, and H2K were not ready. Now, H2K, they're trying to get another kill onto Chachi. His flash is back up.
Flash out, Little One making a look for the stun, leaps back. Still in trouble, however. The focus from the top laner and the mid laner shutting down Visit Chachi yet again.
Now, you could criticize Chachi there. He doesn't have his TP available. The rest of his team was backing off. But regardless, H2K are able to get themselves a kill. And this is where UOL find another good fight. Exile has pressure in mid. They're able to punish H2K as they try to get a bit of vision around the Rift Herald. Another good hook landing from Hylissang means that they do find another good kill.
Unicorns of Love are playing incredibly well. They do have the advantage. We have to credit them for that. And now I have to wonder what H2K can do to come back. We know they're good at snowballing leads. We know they can do it when they get the opportunity. This is not one of those games. This is where they have to come back from a deficit. And it seems hard to do it at this point in the game.
You still have the stalling Sivir late game, because you got to remember that she has a lot of wave clear, and the longer the game goes, that Sivir can become a big team fight threat. So there's still that possibility. But for H2K, it's reliant on trying to force picks.
Exile uses the ultimate, still knocked up in the Cataclysm. Lantern is there, is going to take it out.
But it's really hard to get picks onto the Unicorns of Love, especially when they're so split up.
Yeah, but not quite as hard to pick off members of H2K. Odo's going to run for his life. He's going to get deleted. Xerxes does so much damage to the tankier members of the team. Just taking the time, just playing with his food. Gets the knockup, not going to commit, however. Doesn't want to burn anything else. Nuclear now in trouble. Exile past the tower, but it's going to be the hookup onto Jay. H2K in trouble. Flash forward from Febiven. Flash out from Samix. He's going to be all right. Exhaust keeping him alive as Febiven doesn't get the full damage. So flash forward the hook. It goes wide. Hylissang feeling a little too confident after the earlier plays in the game, but still, Unicorns of Love with the advantage.
And H2K are doing their best to hold off from the pressure of the Unicorns, but the Unicorns are unrelenting, moving into their H2K's jungle. We talked early on about how Jankos is an easy mistake to make, but now it is impossible for him to even look at his half of the jungle with the amount of pressure that the Unicorns are consistently exerting. Really impressive performance from the Unicorns, and H2K, their only options now to just slow the game down as much as possible, try and rely on the Sivir wave clear, on the pick potential from Febiven to just hold the lines, because it is difficult to try and force a fight at this point in the game.
And in the third place match in Game 4, it was H2K who got the hilariously large gold lead in the early game. It was Fnatic who held them out to their last breath, and H2K in the end triumphed. H2K are going to need to play better than Fnatic did in that game. They're going to need to find those late game fights, find those ways back in, utilize the Sivir and Braum together to win. The Unicorns of Love may not give them the opportunity. They are constantly trying to make plays.
The key difference, I feel, between what's happening now and what happened in the H2K versus Fnatic series is that H2K were all about waiting for that optimal play. Try and find a pick on the Samux.
Holding, waiting, does have the Buster Shot, can disengage.
Now look at the collapse coming out from Exile and Hylissang. They're looking for the fight.
Eyes on Hylissang. Where's the hook going to go? Can they land the CC? Exile here as well with the Petrifying Gaze. H2K trying the fancy footwork, trying to sneak their way out, but they are spotted by the ward. Xerxes looking for the 1v1. Knows that he can leap in on the Syndra. Easy knock-up, going to move forward. Has Umbral Trespass. The ult is not going to be effective from Febivin. Febivin knows it. Going to have to accept his demise. Quick dodge on that, just like a death mark, baby. Makes his way out. That's the double kill coming in as well. Aggression on the top side coming in from the Unicorns of Love. Kitty Cat's backing them up. Odoamne now running for his life, but there is little hope left for this Crocodile. He is getting torn to shreds. And at 20 minutes, Unicorns of Love ace H2K.
And now they're on their way to take the Baron, and this is the key difference that we were going to just talk about between H2K Fnatic and UOL H2K. UOL do not wait for that perfect play. They see a small opportunity and they just go for it. Xerxes finding a pick onto Febivin around the middle lane. Unicorns sending 2 members versus 3 up into the top lane to try and get a collapse onto H2K, and they're successfully able to find the kills and the collapse. You can see here H2K literally stuck between a rock and a hard place as the TP even comes in from Odo. You think that they have the numbers advantage, but the damage has already been done.
There's nothing you can do as Nuclear. Nothing you can do as Che. Options are out, Unbreakable on cooldown. And this is brutal to watch, Vedius. H2K getting torn apart by the Unicorns of Love, and not in the way we thought it would happen whatsoever. Dominance in the early game, now dominance in the 1v1. That's a Fed Kane. Good ultimate coming in. No real option for Jankos to escape. Can look to go over the wall, not going to happen. Samix now dominating. Almost a 10K gold lead coming through for the Unicorns of Love lineup. The only saving grace for H2K right now is that the double dragons for Unicorns are double clouds. And that is the smallest of silver linings.
Yeah. There really isn't much you can say left for H2K. They're going to need some big mistake from UOL, but he's 1v3 right now.
Moving forward, looking for a little bit more. Febivin going to get knocked up and taken down. Odoamne is running for his life, and Xerxes is playing like a man possessed. Unicorns of Love may just look to close this out. Nuclear's doing what he can to get back some advantage.
Something. Hey! But he's losing his base in the meantime.
And right now, if you're H2K, you better be ready for game 2, because game 1 is done and dusted. Unicorns of Love, one of the most dominant performances we've seen from them in their history in the LCS. 17-3 the kill score. One final dance here in the mid lane, but Vizichachi's just having fun with it, and that's game 1 for Unicorns of Love.
Wow. I don't think anyone was expecting that, Dragos.
Insane invade level 1, right as I say it, nothing's going to happen. Amazing counter jungling across the entire game for Xerxes. Hugely confident engages coming in from Exile to find solo kills in the mid lane, even after so much criticism has been levied against him. Pretty much everything that could have gone right for Unicorns of Love that series went right, and it was all them initiating those plays.
And it's still an essence of the Unicorns of Love. Who expects a Thresh to come mid at level 1, Dracos? Who expects 3 members to just... I mean, it's not like uncommon. We used to see it a lot. When junglers were starting Raptors, often you would send your bottom lane, maybe plus jungler, to invade on the Raptors to like interrupt, cause interference. But Xerxes said, you know what? I think both of you should just come with me. We'll take all the Raptors. I get level 2, and then the jungle is mine. And he very effectively made that jungle his.
That was Xerxes' house. And I think what's crazy to me is I love that H2K tried to make plays, but that deficit was built so quickly. That advantage for Unicorns of Love built so quickly. And H2K, they tried repeatedly on the bottom side of the map to force those plays, but that made it even worse.
It did.
That made it fall apart even faster.
And I just have to wonder what the decision-making was from Jankos. I feel like there were better options in terms of the top lane and the mid lane, even though your mid lane is at a deficit. Remember, the Cassio used her summoner spells early on when she tried to get the kill onto Featherfin in the first place. So there were options for Jankos, but instead he invested them all into arguably the hardest lane to gank. So I think maybe H2K still need to warm up a little bit. I'm hoping to see more from them throughout the rest of the series. This is still a best of 5, but a great way to start the series for the Unicorns of Love, demonstrating that these last few weeks of prep have not gone to waste.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic overall. I think it was interesting to see how this played out. Well, Unicorns of Love, they took control from the start to secure a dominating win. Let's head over to the analyst desk to take a closer look.
Thank you very much, guys. I just want to jump on that point of preparation, because I think we cannot emphasize enough the amount of preparation that Unicorns of Love brought into this level 1 and the early game, which then gave them the game. And I'm still in awe, to be honest. And Gilius, you were just completely complimenting the Unicorns of Love for the whole early game. So let's take a look at the replays. Tell us what is so inventive about their plan here.
So this just shows that Unicorns had a lot of preparation time coming into this match. They had an insane level 1 strat where they sweep out the enemy deep ward on the Raptors, so the enemy team doesn't know where Kayn will start, so they just appear on the enemy Raptors and then take out Junkos out of the game. And in the same time, where they're invading, Hylissang also forces the flash of Febiven level 1, which enables Exile to get the solo kill onto the Syndra.
And then after this, Gilles and I, we were talking a lot about the junglers, what they're doing. Jankos, he's like, nothing he can really do on the map, and he ends up just going for these like super risky ganks, especially through the bottom lane against a Thresh, who can always either interrupt him or just do what we just saw on the screen here. And then the second thing we kind of brought up was, I asked Gilles, I'm like, will Xerxes invade second red buff?
Yeah.
Like, will he properly invade second red buff and keep Jankos down? And Gilles, he was like, you know what, no. He's too young. This is for veteran junglers like Gilius and like Jankos. You know, these are the kind of guys who will always invade second red buff and just destroy the jungler. And then what happened? Xerxes set it up perfectly, pushing lanes, vision, and denies second red. Jankos was like 3 levels down. It was fantastic to watch.
It was absolutely fantastic to watch. Often here on the desk, I hear it's over when it's not actually over. It was definitely over. It was incredible. We're going to take a look at some stats from Exile specifically. But just in the early game, Exile did much better than he usually does, than he always does, because he was just set up fantastically. That top lane that you talked about so much, Gilius, that should be influential, they were always behind on the play.
Yeah, so something to note about the top lane matchup is that Renekton is supposed to win with Maokai and push, but with the level 1 invade, Unicorns divided the map in a way where Junkos has no camps to do on his topside jungle, and neither on the enemy topside jungle. So he had to play around bot side. He was forced to. So Vizicachi had a free lane with Maokai, and he eventually outscales the Renekton with Maokai. So this all goes back to the preparation and the level 1 of Unicorns. It was really brilliant. Yeah.
And then suddenly after bot lane starts winning, you know, when the ganks went in favor of them with Jankos dying, Hylissang can start roaming around. Like, he also gets into the jungle with Xerxes. And then you have a roaming Kayn who's 2 levels up. You have a Thresh, a very good Thresh player as well, worth adding, roaming in your jungle. And none of your lanes can help you. They're all behind. They're literally just being like, yeah, you're on your own, dude. Like, there's nothing you can do at that point. This will just keep happening over and over.
This is a replay we titled Utter Destruction, I believe. Because you thought at one point, okay, H2K did make some counter moves, you know, that trade bottom lane for the tower in the end, but it was never enough, Gilius.
Yeah, the main problem is when the game was like beginning, I knew that Unicorns even outscales H2K. And if you get a level 1 like that, where you can even snowball with a team comp that outscales, then a game looks really like a stomp. So that was the problem.
You said one of the most convincing pro play games here you've seen in Europe.
Yeah, both the game, but also the Kayn performance, obviously from Xerxes. And I'm going to try not overreact, but I think Unicorns of Love are the best team in the world after that one game, because that was just so perfect what they did. And I also said if you know, there was more meta picks in the mid lane and Exile not dying early on, then Unicorns of Love would probably win. So I will change my prediction already after the first game and just be like, this draft had everything I like to see from Unicorns. So I think they're now equipped, especially with Exile playing things like Cassiopeia, to take down H2K.
So what's going to be interesting to see in the game 2 now is, did we see everything Unicorns prepared? Like, do they have another strategy? Do they have another level 1 that is like that, like maybe a different level 1, or was this all it? And H2K is going to come back into the series now.
You talked about Javan quite a lot and
Yeah.
how you didn't like it on either team. Do you want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so when you want to pick Javan early in your draft as a flex pick, you have to have your top laner and your jungler need to be good on the champion. And I feel like Xerx and Vizicachi are not good on Javan, and I think Odoamne and Junkas are not good on Javan either. So I hope that the Javan pick gets dropped now in the game 2, and H2K goes back to the Sejuani and the more like the picks they used against Splice.
Well, they are moving to blue side for game 2, H2K, and the most important thing is that the seed of doubt is planted. Unicorns of Love played the perfect game 1. They played a fantastic strategy, and now if you target Jankos, then everything kind of falls apart in that game, right? So what we've seen from Jankos after the Baron steal in the playoffs versus G2, we do not want to see that again. This is where we want H2K to come back.
You need just
immediately.
full reset.
Yeah.
Like just full reset. Okay, you got out level 1. You just got completely destroyed after. You know, that game doesn't matter. That was just a bad scrim. Normally you would FF that even earlier and just say, okay, let's go next game. And it's where H2K in the past have really struggled doing that. They need to be able to do it now.
It's the last thing they need to do, or they're not going to Worlds,
Exactly.
right?
They have to be able to reset.
Whew, wow, the pressure's on. After a great start, the Unicorns of Love are looking to take a big step.